So welcome everyone. I'm Simon from Go Wireless. I'm one of the trainers and network engineers, sales engineers here at Go Wireless. You might have seen me on a few of the training courses or spoken to you on the phone. I'm joined again by Andrew Redmond from Zoom, and we've got a fantastic webinar planned this morning all around the Zoom Phone and what Zoom Phone can offer you. If it's not something you've seen, I'm sure you'll get something exciting out of it. I'm sure you will, because I was the first time I saw Zoom Phone, and very exciting. So I'll pass over to Andrew, and he will show you through all of about Zoom Phone.
Thanks, Simon. So this morning, I'm going to go through a bit of a first half, just giving you a bit of an overview of the Zoom platform and Zoom Phone itself. And then the second half, I'll give you a bit of a live demonstration of the actual Zoom Phone widget within the Zoom client, but also a bit of a run through on the administration side as well, to give you a view of some of the key features and some of the reporting capabilities as well. And hopefully you can see that now. So look, in terms of the Zoom Phone platform, so as it says there, elegant video first native simplicity. So basically Zoom, when it was founded, was created as a video first approach. So pretty much there's a next generation cloud architecture that was built globally. And the main reasons for that were to build a platform that was, number one, easy to use. So you don't have to be technical to use the application. A lot of people around the world know how to use Zoom meetings and the Zoom client. It was built so that you could scale the meetings in terms of you could have people join globally, but more importantly, you had the quality there. And even as we found through COVID with the sheer numbers of people using Zoom meetings, the quality is still there, the scalability is still there on that next gen platform. So really, if you look at on the right, what we call the Zoom wheel, you'll see there all of the different capabilities that have been brought onto Zoom since the inception of Zoom meetings. And I guess the key here is all of those features are native built to the platform. They're not acquisitions generally on the platform. They're all built natively into the platform on that same global architecture. So it's meant to be simple to purchase, use, and manage and secure. So simple to purchase, you can basically just add the different capabilities as you need. To use the system, it's all managed, and even from a user perspective, as you'll see shortly from a configuration perspective, everything is done by the Zoom US portal. So depending as a user, Andrew, as me logging into the system, if I'm just a user and I've got meetings and phone, I will just see the capabilities of meetings and phone from a configuration perspective. Also from an administration perspective, again, the same thing. If I've got meetings, phone, chat, all enabled, I'll see all the configuration capabilities in that one single platform. So again, really easy to administer through that one portal. And that's all of the reporting, everything is done through that one portal. Because of that, from a single portal and that single architecture, all of the integrations in the Zoom marketplace now can also tie back into that platform. So we have off the shelf, I think we have over 1,000 marketplace apps now that you can readily integrate different applications into Zoom, like Salesforce, like Microsoft Dynamics 365, and a few others there, Slack, Google, Dropbox. But also from a development perspective, in the small medium business space in Australia, I've had several customers that have brought in a developer or a partner capable of developing applications as well that can basically tap into those APIs. And for example, we had someone the other day that developed their own app within their own CRM that could basically log Zoom phone calls, could do various things through those APIs. So again, it's a very open platform to be able to develop on as well. But again, when you look at that global architecture, if you think Zoom Phone is using all the same audio codecs and quality as a meeting audio does. So really from a quality perspective and a usability, if you're used to sitting here now on a Zoom meeting or a Zoom webinar, using Zoom Phone, you're using the same setup with a headset and you're just clicking the button to answer or make a phone call. So really, really easy. So again, one application, one experience. This is something Zoom have been, this is the key thing of Zoom really, one application, one experience. It's a single app on a desktop, on a Mac, on a mobile. And you get all the same features across all of them. You're not loading a different app for all of these features. So again, what will show up in the app, as you'll see shortly, is what you've actually, what you're licensed for. So chat, meetings, phone, webinars, and events. So from a Zoom phone perspective, so that gives you a view of the platform. If I sort of now zoom in on the Zoom phone capabilities, really there's 4 pillars here. So what is Zoom phone? It's a modern phone solution with centralized management. As I said before, now we're looking at the Zoom phone, you're coming into the same portal to manage it. It's secure and reliable, and we've got a robust hardware ecosystem as well there, which I'll touch on. So if I look at the first from a modern phone solution, really it's a full-featured cloud PBX. So it's been built up over time with over now 450 features over 3 years. Some of them are very PBX-like, but some of them have been developed so that they're better managed from a user perspective and from an admin perspective. And we have different releases every month that come out. Some are major, some are minor. However, I guess in the 18 months I've been at Zoom, there's at least been 100+ different features released based on user feedback. So there's a very quick turnaround in terms of features that are being added. From a scalability and how the PSTN works, we've got domestic and international access to PSTN. So depending on the license you actually choose, you can have an unlimited calling plan, etc. But not only that, we have native capability in over 46 countries. So what that means is if you look at the Australia-New Zealand space, you can have an Australia or a New Zealand number. But in 40-odd other countries globally, if you've got sites for your customers in the US, in the UK, we can add a UK number or a US number quite easily. So that's a really key feature of the platform. If you've got several sites, we've had customers come on with 20 or 30 different sites, and they've been able to just add a license, manage it all via the same portal, and assign numbers to the users. Also then we're providing seamless workflow with all the Zoom features. What that means is because everything is in the same Zoom client, that you can start with a chat to a customer, a client, or an internal person. You can escalate that easy with a click of a button to a phone call. And similarly, you can escalate that to a Zoom meeting quite quickly as well. From a centralized management, again, everything is in this platform. One of the keys I'll point out here is when we talk about admin, it's not just an IT person that gets access to administer a system. What that means is you can have call queues, you can have IVRs, and you can have specific people in the organization. And it might be a sales call queue that you have a sales manager of that team that needs to manage that particular queue. And that means they will be able to, as a sales manager user, go into the portal and even change the behavior of that call queue. So that might be something as simple as removing a person from a call queue or adding a person from a call queue. But that same person, because they've got access to that portal as well, can see all the reporting and analytics and monitoring for that sales queue as well, really easily. So again, showing the power of that platform to be able to do that as a user rather than a full-blown IT admin. So security and reliability, from a QoS perspective, as I said, a quality of service of the audio, same as what meetings use, because it's the same audio codecs. So very low loss codecs on the smaller links out there, and also from a mobile perspective as well. Globally distributed data centers from a redundancy perspective, we've got 4 nines availability, and also features like end-to-end encryption again there, which is in beta, and things like that you'll see on the platform being tested as well. And then from a hardware, really there's a selection of hardware which I'll show you shortly that is certified with Zoom, but also we do add our generic SIP as well on a minimum number of phones. If you've got some phones that can work on the platform, there is a chance that they can also work with Zoom. From a growth perspective, we've got 2 million seats plus sold to date. That's globally, and that's across a lot of verticals. So quite key here to see, while it's still, I guess, 2 to 3 years, there are a lot of numbers growing, and it's growing quite quickly. I think we're almost at 2.5 million users globally. And again, looking at the verticals there, it's across all verticals that that Zoom Phone is there. So from an enterprise management for scale, as I said, Zoom US, you've got all of the admin portal there, and you've got all the reporting and analytics. And rather than going through these individually, I'll actually show you some of these on the portal to give you an idea of how easy some of the reports are to see and how some of the config can be done. Also, from a quality and reporting, one of the things Zoom can do well here is we can basically, from a Zoom phone perspective, go in and look at the quality of phone calls. And this is quite important. We have had a few customers that have, if, for example, the CEO has been online and they sort of had perceived quality problems with a phone call. And we were able to go into the portal there and actually see exactly what was happening with that call. Now, not only from a technical perspective, but this was just from a basic perspective. And what you'll see on the bottom right there is you can actually see the devices that the end users are actually using. So in the case of the CEO where he had some quality issues, we found out he was using his iPhone, he was using speaker on the iPhone, and he was actually, when we interviewed him, that he was actually in an outdoor area that was quite noisy, and it just so happened he was roaming between Wi-Fi on the outdoor. So there was a few things that we could easily see without going into that full detail. So really powerful having that there. Important to note from an audio quality perspective, this was a Wainhouse research report that was actually done. And I guess the premise behind this is, as the network condition gets worse, so the packet loss side of things, Zoom still avails fairly good against all of the other vendors there in terms of voice quality. So again, coming into that lossless link, what actually happens with calls. So just a couple of key features I'll mention here that are part of the basic license, the Zoom phone licenses. You've got intelligent call routing. So this gives you the ability to do interactive voice response, or IVRs, quite simply within the system. So that press 1, press 2 to move to a department option. Also then gives you the ability to configure call queues. And this is not just a simple hunt group, ring everybody, but you do have options to control overflow of, for example, what happens if no one's on the queue or if a person's on hold for too long. There are a lot of options here without going down the full contact center path. A lot of these are a good option and a cheap option for a customer to configure without going to that spending hundreds of dollars per agent. And what we find is a lot of customers will actually, it does actually suffice just having the call queues that are here, because while they think and say they've got a contact center, they're still doing fairly basic call queuing. Also then from a reporting, we have a power user license that allows this powerful call reporting from telling you exactly what's going on, as I mentioned before, on a call queue, which I'll show you shortly as well. Also with a power user, one other key feature here that a lot of people ask for is an attendant console. And this is more that reception console view from a receptionist or someone that handles and transfers a lot of calls. So it still is the same Zoom client, but it just changes the behavior slightly in terms of, you see like a nice little switchboard with all the people. And you can see there, you can see all their availabilities or messages before you send a call to that person. Call monitoring, again, from a call center perspective, allows you to monitor calls as a supervisory person straight out of the box. Call recording straight out of the box. You can set call recording as an ad hoc or as scheduled across many people. Lastly, last couple of slides here. So Zoom phone integrations. This is pretty key from integration perspective, as I mentioned, because we can integrate with Microsoft Teams, Salesforce, and Slack are probably the three common ones that I often see. But we also are looking at things. We've now got first release of HubSpot integration as an example as well. So in that small medium business space, a lot of customers are finding that benefit of integration to HubSpot. Lastly, from a devices here, as I mentioned, there are a lot of certified Zoom hardware. So we can basically easily give you the list of that as to what you can actually configure as a phone or a device on Zoom. Also things like analog fax machines, cordless devices you can connect in via analog adapters into the Zoom phone system as well. And lastly, I guess Zoom Rooms. So if any of you have heard of Zoom Rooms, and this is our Zoom Room hardware either provided by Neat or Poly or Logitech, you can actually add a phone license easy into those rooms as well. And what that does is it saves a customer putting a physical phone in those meeting rooms as well. So the idea here is if you've gone and invested in a nice screen and camera system that is running Zoom, then you can quite easily have the ability to just walk into that room and make and receive phone calls as well. So I'll pause there for a minute, Simon. I'm just going to click over to my demo screen. You can see my desktop right there, Simon?
Yep, everything looks great.
Excellent. So a couple of screens I've got open here. I've got the Zoom US portal. So as I mentioned, I've logged in as me here to the Zoom US portal. So you'll see a few things. It gives me all my personal settings. So all of the different features I've got set up. So as we're talking today, this would be where me as a user would go to configure all of my phone settings. So things like configuring voicemail, configuring the behavior of my business hours, what happens out of hours. And it's quite key because it then differentiates me from a mobile phone user to being a business user, having different behavior in business and closed hours. It also, from an admin perspective, then gives you all of the Zoom features that you've got configured. So from Zoom rooms to phone system management. And what you'll see here is there's 8 little simple menus here, 3 or 4 of which you can configure the entire system. And you can really get 5 users going on this system configured with New Zealand phone numbers, simple call queues and an IVR, probably in under 15 minutes. So it's really, really quick to onboard people into this environment, which I'll take you through shortly. Just before I do, I'll just go through the Zoom client phone and just a couple of those features I showed you before. So this is the standard Zoom client running on a Mac. And you'll see up the top here, I've got my standard Zoom home screen. Because I've got phone, I also have the phone tab here as well. So you'll have all of your call history that pops up here. So you can quite easily just click to call the person back if they call. You've got a simple dial pad and you've got your phone number that you can be reached on as well. So if you ring me on that number now, it will ring. I can answer that on my headset. Obviously not now, I'm in a meeting, but you'll see a pop up with a Zoom call there. Voicemail here, very simple. We transcribe all of the voicemails. Not only can you see your own voicemail here, but if you're part of a sales call queue and there's a sales queue voicemail, if there's a reception voicemail, as long as I've got access, I'll see those voicemails here as well. Also from a history perspective, if I do any call recordings, I will actually see them pop up here as well, which we also transcribe by default. In the client, as a user, I also have access to call queues. Now, think of a call center agent. A call center agent has the ability to opt in or opt out of a particular queue. In this case, this is a list of all of the queues that I'm already a member of. But for me to log in, log out, I can actually simply go to here and I can click on or click off that queue. But that means if you're thinking like remote and hybrid working, if you have one receptionist and that receptionist is away, someone can add another person to that call queue and they can log on wherever they are. So even if they're on a mobile phone using Zoom or a remote desktop using Zoom, they can log in and they can basically join that reception queue very easily, which in a lot of cases with a lot of vendors, that is very hard to go and do. You've either got to go to a managed service provider, you've got to log tickets, but as a sales manager, you could have a queue manager. It doesn't have to be IT, but someone who has access to that queue to add a user, they can then add that user and they can quite quickly log into that call. So really simple. Again, dial pad, you've got your directory, you can search people, you can see whether they're online, you can then make a call to that person, you can chat to that person, whatever you need to do. But the key here is it's all in that same Zoom app. And the benefit here is if you've got a lot of customers, which a lot of customers are used to using and familiar with the Zoom client, to add that phone tab in then is not much of a step change to a lot of people that are not tech savvy to understand that they'll see a pop-up and that's actually a phone call. Even to the point we're seeing some people who are a little less adapt to the, I guess, the changing technology. Sometimes the question is, can we just get a phone for that person? And it really takes a bit of a look at that reception console feature and they see what they're going to get and they see how easy it is. And then they quite simply transition from a hard phone to that Zoom client. So again, then you may not have the expense to the phone. I just saw a quick chat pop up then, but yes, the answer to that was voicemail to email. We can actually do that voicemail to email as well. So you can get an audio file sent through to, and it basically comes through as a WAV file attachment with the transcript to your email as well. So if I look at the admin side of things, there's 3 menus on the left here in the phone system admin. One is users and rooms, one is auto receptionist, and one is call queues. So with these 3, as I said, if you don't have physical phones, you can build a system using these 3 menus. So if you take a look at users and rooms, and once it pops up here, and I'll just show you an example of me. Now, the key to note here is a user has to be a meetings user before you can actually add them into the phone system management. That doesn't have to be a paid meetings license. You can add a user as a basic free, the 40-minute version of Zoom. As long as they're part of your Zoom domain, you can then add them to the phone system with a paid phone license. And what you can see here is you've got myself, Andrew. I've got an internal extension. There's 2 things I have to configure for me, a call package. So this is basically your Zoom phone license, so what it entitles you to. Unlike other vendors, we can actually have a mix of different licenses. So you might have some power users that make a lot of outbound calls. You might have a call center team that only take inbound calls as an example. So you can configure a package accordingly. And then a phone number. So really here, you can choose a Zoom specific phone number for New Zealand, or as most customers do, they'll port their existing phone numbers into the Zoom. And then you'll have basically a pool of those numbers you can assign to all of your users. So once those 2 things are done, basically when I then log out and log back into my Zoom client, I'll see that Zoom phone tab straight away. And straight away, I can make and receive calls on a basic level. So you can, as you can see, you can go and add 5 users quite quickly there. From a configuration perspective, then the auto receptionist, think of that as your IVR or your front end, press 1, welcome to, press 1, 2, 3. And call queues are really any hunt groups, call queues, just basically a number of members that are able to take calls in a configured way. And if I take a look at call queues here, just to show you how easy it is to add someone to a call queue, I'll just look at my Sydney location here. And these are all the queues I've got configured for my Sydney specific site. So a couple of things you'll see here. You'll see the customer service queue that's set up. And you'll also see a phone number that's assigned here as well. So think of this as a main company number. If this is what you advertise on your website for a customer service queue, that is what number you assign to this queue. And it's as simple logic as when someone calls that number, it will hit this call queue. If I go into the call queue, you will see the members of the queue. So I can quite easily, if I've got access to the admin of this, see all of the different members of this queue, what their received call status is. So i.e., are they opted in or opted out? But I'm very, for me to add another user to it or remove a user, I can either go in and delete, or I can add, and it will basically give me my list of phone users that I can quite easily go and add a user to that queue. So really simple. But you'll also see in here the ability to then go and configure what happens in this queue. So you can see here I can configure the business hours for that queue, which is quite important because you can actually change the behavior of where that call goes after hours versus what happens during business hours. You've got call distribution here, so longest idle, sequential, or simultaneous. You can change the greeting prompts, music on hold, through a simple audio library function. So this is replicated throughout Zoom. When you actually go to this audio library, anything like your voicemails, your customer greetings, your IVR greetings, you can actually see all the ones I've pre-recorded, but you can also simply add an audio file as well. And you can do that by a cool text-to-speech engine. You can do it by the web browser now. We're using a headset to record a voicemail greeting as an example, or you can actually upload files as well. And really then the behavior of the queue, as I mentioned, you can then set things like hold times, you can set things like wrap up times, you can set things like how many calls you want in the queue. So there's a fair bit in there to actually do within a call queue. But again, it's very simple to go into that call queue and change things in there. Similarly with auto receptionists. you can actually go into here, and just as a quick example, I don't do all too much onto this, but if I look at Sydney, I might have a main reception IVR, again, that has a number. So when you call one of these numbers, it will hit the IVR. But you can see here that I've got a very simple IVR menu that allows me to go and edit each one of those options. And basically, as an example there, for option 2, it's forwarding it to the call queue, which just happens to be that customer service call queue I showed you before. So again, really easy to go and edit this and change things. The reporting side of it, so from an analytics and reports, just on a basic level, you can go in as an admin and get all the call detail records. So every call in and out of the system, you can go and analyze it. You can see the path for a call queue. If someone's pressed an option on an IVR, you can get all that detail. If you then want more call queue specific details, if as a user I've got access to a power user license, which I have here, then you'll get these extra features in terms of call queue real-time analytics. So this will give more of that real-time dashboard view of what's actually happening in that queue. And this is kind of what people pay call centers when they buy the contact center license. They get these quite powerful dashboards, but this will give you things like your average call waiting time, the handling times. Importantly, if you've got any abandoned calls, what happens if calls are overflowed from your queues, you can just get a really quick picture of what's actually happening. So as a sales manager, this is really popular to actually go and see what's going on. So a quick overview of what all your members are doing, whether they're active or opted out of queues. But interestingly here, just lastly, as I go into a queue here, you can actually see the users in that queue, but you can also force them on and off a queue as well quite easily. So pretty powerful reporting. So I think I'll pause there, Simon, because I think we've got a few questions that have come up and can run through some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a few questions coming in, and thanks to everyone for asking those throughout. The first one, probably more Go Wireless specific thing, is GrandStream supported as a device with a Zoom phone, obviously being one of the products that we sell?
So GrandStream, I know we've had a few customers where we've configured them as generic SIP devices, which means but when I saw that, it's not actually at the moment a supported device, so a certified device on Zoom. So if we're outside of that realm with any device, we first got to make sure that the phone is, and Ashley's just put the supported devices list up, but what we've got to make sure is the right AES encryption's there and the right TLS 1.2 is supported, first of all. We can then, if we look at a trial for a customer, test to see if the phone will register. So even though it's not supported, it might be that it registers, in which case then we've had customers with, I think we have a minimal limit of about 50 devices. If it does work, then we say, yes, you can go ahead and use them. But obviously, if there's an issue, our support team can't assist. Now, I'll follow up with a GrandStream through Simon to see if that's going to become certified.
Cool. And just for everyone else watching as well, we have recently came on board as a Poly partner. So we'll look at getting that hardware, and it's just not on the website at the moment. Second question, can Zoom do wall boards in the call center environment? So, the nice pretty boards up on the screens with your all the reporting and things like that. Yes, I don't know if you noticed there on the dashboard screen, we do have a pop out for a wall board. So we can do a basic wall board. It's not too customizable at the moment, but we can do a basic one there. Nice, very cool. You showed Zoom phone recording earlier on. Is that an extra license charge or is that included? No, it's included. So as long as you've got a Zoom Phone Pro and above license, which you would to basically have all the Zoom Phone functions, then yes. So recording from an ad hoc, you can go and record all calls. You can choose inbound, outbound, and also give admin access to who you want access to those as well. Oh, fantastic. And it definitely looked really easy to retrieve those from the desktop app as well. Another one that we did get up and we get asked quite regularly for these kind of solutions is the simultaneous ringing of either your desktop client or the mobile client. And I guess kind of from that as well, can you do sequentially the mobile client and desktop client? Yep. So as a user, absolutely, we can basically go and configure a few different options. And one of those is you could put your mobile number straight in that. So obviously, if you've got Zoom apps running on both devices, it will ring them both. If you've got your mobile number in your profile, you can set that to simultaneously ring, or you can actually set it to sequentially ring. Fantastic. And yeah, I believe that was all the questions that we had at this stage. If anyone had any other questions, do feel free to reach out to us at Go Wireless or reach out to the team at Zoom, and we're always happy to help.
But yeah, I hope that's given you a bit of a good overview, just to a couple of snippets there. So as Simon said, anything you need in more detail, we can go down into detail on different parts of the admin or the user or whatever you need.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I definitely appreciate everyone's time. Thanks for, oh, actually, before we do, someone did say quickly, one last question. How many devices can you run your apps on?
How many devices? So I think it's one mobile, one desktop device, and then you can have one physical phone as well.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for your time. Thanks for joining, and definitely thanks to the team at Zoom for hosting this. If you do have any further questions about Zoom Phone, don't be afraid to reach out. You can always give us a call, or sales@GoWiFi is the best email to reach us on. And we're always happy to get the Zoom Phone team involved to assist in any other kind of specific questions. So thanks everyone for the time. This will be recorded if you do want to go through and have a look at the demo again. And yeah, have a great day.
Thanks everyone.